Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. Today I will be talking about the Mega Evolution cards from the upcoming Mega Evolution set. And this past weekend we had some pre-releases. I actually managed to get Mega Camerupt and Mega Lucatrio, so I'm very happy about that one, but very excited for the return of Megas. There's a lot of potential with these cards. Some of them are definitely not as good as you might hope for. Other ones I think are going to be very good. And obviously we're getting more Mega reveals as we get more set reveals. So I'm very excited to see how Megas shape up the game. But today I wanted to go ahead and rank the 10 Mega Evolutions that we have in the upcoming set and kind of show you guys what I think about them as far as if they're going to be good cards and kind of what their use is going to be in different decks. I do think a lot of these cards are going to have some kind of use within decks. And then I do also think that some of them are just not going to have any use whatsoever, and we do have some results to kind of go off of based on the Japanese city leagues, so I am going to be kind of looking at that as well and kind of talking about how these cards function within those decks. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you let me know in the comments which Mega Evolution is your favorite out of these 10 right here, and then let's go ahead and get started here and start ranking these. So up first here we do have Mega Gardevoir, which is obviously one of the more talked about Megas, with a deck like Gardevoir already existing and just having that ability to kind of splash in different psychic type attackers. This right here, it's a card where obviously we're getting more psychic support, and it is going to be something that might make this a viable deck on its own, but as of right now I'm going to throw it here with viable attacker because it's really what it's kind of being used for. There's not really a deck built specifically around Mega Gardevoir. It's kind of a card that you throw into Gardevoir right now as a way to kind of close out games. And of course it does have the Mega Symphonia attack right here, which does 50 damage for each psychic energy attached to all of your Pokemon. So pair this up with the existing Gardevoir, where you're able to put basically as many psychic energy into play as you want, and you're able to hit for a ton of damage to close out games. Obviously in some matchups, if you know for sure that this thing can't be knocked out, you can start attacking with it a little bit earlier, but I think for the most part this is a card that you're going to kind of use to close out games, kind of your late game big attacker, and then also in just certain matchups you're going to kind of rely more heavily on this card specifically. Obviously with Megas, they're all worth 3 prizes, so they are kind of a liability in a sense, but with a card like this, again, where you just kind of have uncapped damage and you can quickly power it up, I do think that Gardevoirs are going to kind of build more towards setting up multiple Curlias, kind of like we saw in the past, and I do think that this is going to be a very viable attacker for the deck. As far as right now, Gardevoir is a very interesting deck. It's a deck where, you know, we've definitely seen different builds of it over time, so I don't imagine that this is going to get played in every single version of Gardevoir, but I do think that this is a solid option, and I think as Gardevoir kind of rotates in the future, we are going to see this turn into its own actual deck. Looking at the City Leagues, we do see a ton of results here with Mega Gardevoir. Again, some of them actually won the City Leagues, and again, it's just, you know, one copy that you kind of throw in. It's just another attacking option. We do see in this build, we see the 4/4 Ralts Curlia, so again, just kind of a heavier build of like setting up Curlias and kind of, you know, setting up that attacker for later on. So I do think that this is a very viable attacker for the deck, but the whole deck is not focused just around Mega Gardevoir, right? Like there's going to be games where you don't use this card. And overall, I do think it is one of the stronger Megas out of these upcoming 10 here. Next up is Mega Kangaskhan. This is definitely in the viable support tier. Its attack is very interesting, but definitely not one that you want to rely on. But you're mainly going to use this card for the Run Errand ability, which allows you to draw cards. And we are seeing this card kind of pop up in decks like Raging Bolt as a way to kind of pivot after you get a Pokemon knocked out. You send this up, you draw some cards, and then you retreat into your attacker and basically play the game from there. When this is in the active spot, you get to draw 2 extra cards, and then you basically retreat for free with Latias. You do have Rapid Fire combo for 200 plus 50 damage for each head, so it is an option, you know, if all else fails, you can always go for that attack and rely on some coin flips. But mostly you're going to be using this for the ability. It's kind of just a support option in decks that naturally run Latias, just as a way to constantly be drawing cards. And again, you're not going to use it in every single matchup, right? Like if I'm playing against a Mega Lucario deck, I'm probably not going to put this down because it's weak to fighting and it's worth 3 prizes. But in certain matchups, it just kind of makes sense to go ahead and play it. And again, this card right here, we are mostly seeing being played in Raging Bolt. As you can see, it is played in some other decks as well. But for the most part, you're playing it in Raging Bolts. And again, you're just using it as a way to draw more cards because you naturally play Latias, which allows you to retreat for free. So you basically just set up your bench, put it down. If something gets knocked out, just push it up, draw some cards, retreat, and you're basically just using it as a support option. I think this is a very good card, just for support, you know, and I do think that it's going to be very viable in some decks, just not really as an attacker. Next up is Mega Mawile, and kind of same thing here as Gardevoir. I do think this is a viable attacker, not really like a whole deck focused around Mega Mawile. It's kind of just another late game attacker for the deck. And I'll kind of explain what I mean for that. So we're pretty much exclusively seeing this card being played in Archaludon, which is a deck that kind of died a while ago. It's still kind of out there, you know what I mean? But we are kind of seeing it a little bit more now that Mega Mawile is out. And basically what it does is it kind of just allows you to have a strong attacker to kind of close games out. Like it's kind of the same thing as Mega Gardevoir in a way. You're not really going to use Big Bite. You're going to go for Greedily Devour, which does 80 damage for each prize card that you have taken. So basically, as the game kind of goes on, you're going to take more prizes. You're going to start doing more damage, and it kind of fits well in a deck like Archaludon, where you kind of have like this tanky Pokemon. Your opponent's not taking a whole lot of prizes. You try to get like an early prize lead, and as the game goes on, you just get stronger and stronger. So same thing, you probably don't want to start off with Mega Mawile, right? But you do want to, you know, start off with Archaludon or like Monkey Dory and just kind of like spread that damage, take some early prizes, and as the game kind of goes on, you get stronger. What's nice too is that you do play a copy like Professor's Turo, so you can kind of use that as well if you need to. And this build here is going with the Hero's Cape, so you're just kind of creating this tanky situation to where you're kind of denying your opponent prize cards, allowing you to get that early prize lead, and as you take more prizes, you're doing more damage. Again, we're really not seeing anything different with these builds. It's like pretty much just Archaludon, and you're throwing in Mawile to make it a stronger deck. It's not really a deck just focused around Mawile specifically, just the one copy obviously to close games out. But yeah, still a pretty viable attacker, I would say. It's definitely having some results in Japan, so that's kind of nice. Like it's actually having pretty decent results, I would say. Like nothing really like winning tournaments. We do see a couple second places and things like that, but we are starting to see more Archaludon than we've been seeing in the past, so it seems like it's working out pretty well. Up next is Mega Manectric, and if you haven't noticed by now, a lot of these kind of fall in the same tier. This is a viable attacker that you kind of splash into an existing deck. This is kind of paired up with those Miraidon kind of decks, more specifically like the electric generator builds, with the electric, not really so much the Joltik builds. And it's just kind of another solid attacking option. Again, you're not going to use it in every matchup, but in certain matchups, it's going to be really good. This one is kind of interesting because I could definitely see you using both attacks depending on the matchup. You do have Flash Ray, which does 120 damage, nothing crazy there, but it does have a crazy effect, and it prevents all attacks from your opponent's basic Pokemon on your next turn. So let's say you're playing against something like Raging Bolt, for example, that pretty much only plays basic Pokemon to attack with. Then you now kind of have a card that can wall that out, and you can kind of create a board state to where you just kind of win the game, and there's really not much that they can do. So definitely in certain matchups, that is an option to kind of just win the game outright if they have no way around it. So that is something to kind of watch out for, and I'm going to be curious to see how well this card actually does. It also has the Riot Blaster attack, which does 200 plus 130 more damage to discard all energy from this Pokemon. So just a really strong, hard-hitting attacker. 330 HP, which is not bad at all. And of course, if you knock it out, you take 3 prizes. But what's nice too is that it's a stage 1, so you can kind of just set up that basic, and then whenever you're ready to attack, you can just go ahead and evolve and attack. And again, we're mostly seeing it in these like Miraidon, electric generator types of builds with the electric, which is kind of nice because with the electric, you're able to use Dynamotor to bring energies back from your discard pile. So you're kind of like discarding stuff, you're kind of bringing it back. And same thing, you just kind of throw it in. It's just, you know, standard Miraidon, you know, you got the Iron Hand, you got the Zekrom, you know, you've got all these cards, Squawk ability to like just get set up faster. So it's kind of just splashed into those decks. It definitely is kind of more of a reliable attacker, I guess. Like you're definitely attacking more with Mega Manectric than you are with like some of these other megas that I've shown, like Gardevoir, for example. So this one, it could kind of be considered its own deck, I guess, but it kind of also just looks like this is Miraidon and you just kind of throw this thing in there, you know. It also just kind of feels like Miraidon is still not really like a great deck. Kind of seems like Joltik is the way to go, and we've been seeing Joltik with Goldango specifically, so I'm curious to see if this deck will kind of, you know, get better and kind of go back to what it was in the past, but we'll have to kind of wait and see. I guess you kind of could consider this its own deck. I guess, you know what, just so we have something up there, I'll go ahead and put it in its own deck category, because I mean some of these builds are playing like heavier lines of this and kind of relying more on it. Like this one, for example, your only other attacker here is Iron Hands, so it's basically Manectric and Iron Hands, right? So you're pretty much just relying on the Manectric. So I think, you know what, I'll go ahead and move it up a tier to the, like, you know, deck category here. So I guess I'll go ahead and move it up to the viable deck category. Let me know in the comments. You can kind of consider it either one. I would say, like, it kind of doesn't really seem like its own deck necessarily, but I can also see that argument, so I'll just go ahead and throw it up there for now. Mega Abomnasnow is a funny card. I feel like it has potential, but we have not seen it. I'm gonna throw it in don't use. Like, it's like a funny idea, right? And in theory it sounds kind of good, but I don't know, you know what I mean? Like, I just don't know. So the appeal behind this card is the Avalanche Hammer attack, which does 100 damage times the amount of basic energy discarded from the top of your deck. When you use its attack, you have to discard the top 6 cards from your deck. So basically the builds that we've seen of this deck involve playing like 30 water energies, which is kind of crazy. So this is one of those decks where, like, it doesn't feel consistent, you know what I mean? That's kind of the problem here. Like, if you had a consistent way to really, like, set up and guarantee that you're doing, you know, the damage you need to do, then it makes a lot of sense. We just haven't seen any results whatsoever. And I literally mean that because, like, with every other one that we've seen so far, there's at least some City League results. This one has had absolutely zero, like no decks whatsoever. I do think it's an interesting card though. Like, I have seen different builds of this deck, and what I think is really interesting is playing the Legacy energy, because since this is a Mega Pokemon and this is like the only Pokemon you play in that deck, it's worth 3 prizes obviously, right? But if you play the Legacy energy, it's only worth 2 prizes. So that means they have to knock out an Abomnasnow, they have to knock out another Abomnasnow, and at that point they're at 5 prizes, so then they have to knock out a third Abomnasnow. So I do think that that's definitely the A spec to use, would be Legacy energy. I just don't know how we really build this deck, and I'm really interested to see if anyone's going to figure it out whenever it comes, like, let's say it releases worldwide. Just right now it just doesn't seem like it's really viable whatsoever, just because you have no consistent way to really, like, guarantee those energies and to also be able to set up at the same time. Mega Camerupt is kind of in a similar boat. We haven't seen any kind of results with this deck. It really doesn't seem that great, but I am going to throw it in has potential. I do think there is some potential around the card. As we kind of get this fire support moving forward, we're getting a lot of fire stuff, so I do think there's some potential. I just don't think it's really great right now. So with this one, you're mostly going to use the Roasting Heat attack, which does 80 damage plus 160 more if your opponent is burned. So basically this deck kind of revolves around being burned, and yeah, I mean, it's 340, weak to water, it's a stage 1. There's really not a whole lot going for it. Like, if this was like a 2-prizer, I could definitely see it, but the fact that it's worth 3 prizes makes it kind of tough. You also have 4 retreat costs, which is never fun, but I think the fact that it's worth 3 prizes kind of really hurts it. Like in general, this looks like a pretty decent card, right? But when you consider the fact that it's worth 3 prizes, like, does that kind of make up for it? Not really, and that's kind of what we're seeing right now. Same thing, no results whatsoever in Japan. Like, we've seen nothing. But I do think that this card has more potential in the future as we kind of get more stuff revealed. Like, I don't know, this is kind of just going off on a whim. Like, I don't know if it's actually going to ever be good, but maybe I'm kind of biased because I like Camerupt, but I do think that there's some potential maybe. I mean, we see with like poison decks and stuff like that, so I think if fire gets some more support, we could maybe see this kind of be a viable card. Mega Latias is terrible. Do not use this card. I would say this is probably the worst Mega out of all 10 of these. If I had to pick one, I'd say this is probably the worst one. So its first attack does 40 damage, and you can switch out with one of your bench Pokemon, which is not crazy at all. And then the second attack does 300 damage and discard all energy from this Pokemon, which is the exact attack basically that Pikachu has right now, Pikachu EX, and it also has an insane ability where you basically survive any hits if you've taken no damage. So there's no reason to play this card. Like, there's just about 0 reason, right? Has 280 HP, which is not even that insane. Worth 3 prizes. This card is terrible. That being said, this card actually does have some City League results, and it seems like most of these are kind of revolve around poison, which makes sense. So I'm guessing you're kind of going for that strafe attack for 40 damage, allowing you to switch into Pecharunt, and when Pecharunt is in the active spot, you're taking more damage because of poison. I just feel like this is not really a viable strategy. I just think having a 3-prizer on your bench with 280 HP is never a good idea. So yeah, I mean, I guess this is kind of the only way to play the card. It makes sense when you think about it, but I also feel like there's just better ways to go about it. Like, I don't think this is going to be a good deck. We finally have something to join Mega Manectric up here, and that is Mega Lucario. And I think Mega Lucario is by far the best deck right now. We've been seeing the results. I actually had a chance to play it in my pre-release, which was kind of fun. Because I'm just gonna go ahead, and these aren't ordered, but I just feel like Mega Lucario has to be up there, you know what I mean? I do think that this, out of all these cards, is gonna be the most viable actual deck, like new deck that we're getting. It's a stage 1, 340 HP, has the Aura Jab attack, which does 130, and you can attach 3 fighting energy from your discard pile to your benched Pokemon in any way that you like. We're constantly discarding fighting energy because of the Lunatone and Soul Rock combo, which I'll show you guys in a second. And then we also have Mega Brave, which does 270 damage. All of these builds are playing like maximum belt, so you're really hitting for 320. You got that new like fighting support card where you're doing 30 more damage on top of that. So fighting is getting a lot of really good support. Most of these builds are playing Mega Lucario. They're playing Lunatone here, which allows you to discard a fighting energy and draw 3 cards, which is insane. It only works if you play the Soul Rock with it, which is another solid 1 prize attacker for 70 damage, kind of similar to like a Rotom Fan where you're just kind of hitting early game. And then they're also kind of playing it with the Hariyama here, which does 210 damage. And it also has the Sumo Catcher ability, which is basically like a boss's orders. It's kind of like Hop's Double, where when you evolve it, you get to swap in one of your opponent's Pokemon. So you have that Gust ability, which can pair really nicely with Mega Lucario. Hariyama is also a solid attacker for 210. You can kind of build it up with Mega Lucario. You can play Reversal Energies. So really a good deck overall. The big weakness is obviously Psychic, so you're gonna have a rough time against Gardevoir. But I do think that this is a very viable deck, and we've been seeing the results too in Japan. Like, we've been seeing a lot of results in Japan as far as city leagues go. We've been seeing like pages and pages of results. Like, this deck is doing pretty good overall. It's winning tournaments. It's just having a good time, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of these builds, like I said, they're kind of built a little bit similarly here. Some of them running this 1 prize Lucario as well, but pretty much all your Pokemon are just from the new set coming out. There's really nothing else that you're playing. You got this like fighting, I always forget what it's called, the Power Plus Pro or whatever it is, but basically it's an item card where your fighting Pokemon do 30 more damage. You also have the Fighting Gong, which allows you to search for a basic fighting energy or fighting Pokemon. You also run the Maximum Belt to do some more damage. You got Reversal Energy to power up the Hariyama. You got a lot of good stuff in here, and honestly, I think that this is the best Mega card for like its own deck. It's really just a whole brand new deck, which is always nice to get with these sets. When we have an entirely like brand new deck, a whole new archetype is always really nice. And yeah, your main attacker here is going to be Lucario, obviously, but you do have a couple other options. And yeah, just overall feels like a really solid deck, and I actually really want to test this one out. Like, I'm really kind of looking forward to playing this deck. We've got 2 more Megas left. We've got Mega Venusaur, which is my favorite starter Venusaur, favorite Mega. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like it's that great, but it definitely has potential. I just think right now Grass is not in the best spot, and I do think it's a very powerful card, but at the same time, there's a lot of cards or decks in the format that can kind of just deal with this. We're getting a lot of fire support as well, so I think fire is going to be kind of a better type of deck. So I do think Venusaur is going to have kind of a tough time with that. I've been seeing some results in Japan, nothing like too crazy, but we do see that it is a deck that has some potential. It's just not one that's like doing super great necessarily. Obviously you're gonna play it with the Teal Mask Ogerpon as a way to just draw cards and like get energies on the board. This is a really interesting build right here that I clicked on that's a little bit unconventional, I feel like. We're kind of mostly seeing it played with like the Meganium, which basically kind of makes grass energies count for double. We do have the new Stadium card as well, the Vitality Forest. This is kind of a tank deck. I do think it's like a viable deck, but I don't think it's going to be like a great one, you know what I mean? So I think the card has potential, and I'm hoping we get some more grass support in the future. I just don't think it's really strong enough right now to kind of like justify playing it, if that makes sense. Like 380 HP is kind of crazy. You hit for 240, you get to heal yourself, all that stuff. You get to move grass energies around. It's just one of those kind of setup decks where I just don't think it's like the best deck right now, or even really a great deck necessarily. I do think it has potential, but I think it just kind of needs some more time. And last but certainly least, we have Absol, which is not really a great card, so we're gonna throw it in don't use. Kind of anticlimactic there, but yeah, I don't think Mega Absol is great. I think it belongs in the bottom tier. It just doesn't seem like a great card. Same thing with this one, no city league results whatsoever. Got 280 HP, it's a basic, it's weak to grass, which is never great because of Teal Mask Ogerpon. It has the first attack Doom period. If your opponent's active Pokemon has exactly 6 damage counters on it, that Pokemon is knocked out. It also has Cruel Claw for 200 damage. Your opponent reveals their hand, discard a card that you find there. Doesn't seem great. Like, the first attack is kind of like, I mean, you could just play an attacker that just knocks it out naturally, right? Like, against most stuff, that's gonna work to just have a strong attacker and just knock it out. And then the second one, you know, obviously, it's always kind of nice to be able to like discard cards and stuff, but like, you got a handful of 10 cards and like I discard one of them, like you're probably still gonna be fine. Like it just doesn't seem great, you know. Again, it's that 3 prizer mentality, right? Like if this was just like a regular EX Pokemon, maybe you play it, but the fact that it's worth 3 prizes, like, are the attacks good enough to kind of justify that? In this case, not really. That's kind of my finalized list right here. I pretty much categorized everything by how I feel about the cards right now. Again, Manectric, you can kind of consider its own deck or just kind of consider it as an attacker. I think it can kind of float both ways. And then Mega Lucario is definitely just a brand new deck. Mega Kangaskhan, very viable support in things like Raging Bolt. And then we do see Mawile and Gardevoir kind of being used as just strong, solid attackers. Camerupt, Venusaur, not quite there, but I do think they have potential. And then the bottom 3 here, I just don't see it. Mega Abomnasnow is like a maybe. Like if there was a tier in between has potential and don't use, I would put it there. But for now, I'm just gonna have it at the very bottom. That being said, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Let me know which card is your favorite. And yeah, hope you guys have a great day, and I'll catch you in the next one.